Obviously, I think my dancers' individualities are important in being such a small company. When we're dancing together, I want that dancing to be together, and you're going to have to let go of those things that you think you want to add here because this is not the place for it. But I definitely enjoy pulling from dancers what their individual strengths can be. And maybe they don't know that this could be a strength, but that's what is one of my favorite things about running the company.
I'm Caitlin, a former professional ballerina turned dance educator and career mentor, and this is the Brainy Ballerina podcast. I am here for the aspiring professional ballerina who wants to learn what it really takes to build a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. I'm peeling back the curtain of the professional dance world with open and honest conversations about the realities of becoming a professional dancer. Come along to gain the knowledge and inspiration you need to succeed in a dance career on your terms. Hello and welcome to the Brainy Ballerina podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Sloan, and I am joined today by Mareck Grundy. Karen is the artistic and executive director of Mareck Center for Dance. She performed extensively, including 11 years in Las Vegas, and her innovative style blends classical ballet and modern dance with influences from Las Vegas productions. I had the huge honor of dancing for Karen for 7 years, and I am so thrilled to be connecting with her today. I want to start from the very beginning of your dance journey, and I would love to hear why you took your very first dance class.
I was basically dancing out of the womb. So my mom had really no choice but to put me into dance class as soon as they would take me, which was at the age of 3, where I got my first tutu. So basically, dance was all I ever wanted. And that's what I did.
And what was your training like growing up?
I started, at kind of a little Dolly Dinkle kind of school, and then kind of went out of dance for a little bit. And then my mom put me in classes with Ronnie Greenblatt, who danced under Martha Graham. And so she was obviously a Graham based teacher. And so I started around 10 or 11, I started working with her in modern classes. And a friend of mine was in beauty pageants, and I wanted to be in beauty pageants, and you had to have a decent talent. And my talent at that time, she choreographed this modern dance for me. And I decided I needed to get more serious about dance. So at 12, I went and I had to audition for Inez Morning. She was the teacher to get into, that's going to train you, that's going to do all the best things. And she is still doing that today. So I had to audition for her, and she said, well, we're going to have to book her for life. But she booked me. So then I started really my formal, actual classical training with her. And that's kind of where everything evolved as far as what my next steps would be in a career. I really wanted to be a ballet dancer. I wanted to be a classical ballet dancer. One day she said, you don't really have the body type, and maybe your technique isn't quite there yet because you didn't start soon enough, just that kind of old school mentality. And so she said, let's really gear you towards other types of dance. And that was probably my saving grace.
So where did you go from there?
Out of high school, there was a moment in high school that I was like, I don't want to dance anymore. I went through that year, and then I came back to her after I graduated and said, I don't know what I was thinking. I need to get back in. And so I started taking classes again. And then she was the choreographer for Legends in Concert in Las Vegas. She said, why don't you go audition? Maybe you'll get a job. Maybe you won't. I went and auditioned for Legends in Concert, and I got hired at 18. I was dancing for Legends in Concert in Las Vegas.
What was that like being so young and dancing in Las Vegas?
She gave me prerequisite, like, just stay away from all of the legends, basically. She's like, do not get close to them. Just stay away from them because you're 18 and they are going to love you. And so I did not heed her advice, but I just got, maybe you have to cut that. So, it was fun. It was a whirlwind of an experience because I was, the only one that was not 21. Everybody was going out after work and things like that. And I was then also doing that.
So at this point, are you still living at home?
At this point, I am still living at home. Then I start making enough money, and then I move out and I move in with a friend from high school, and we get an apartment together.
Tell me more about your professional career in Vegas. So you start off pretty young, but then you danced there for 11
11
years. And
years, right.
what kept you coming back to that?
I love performing, I love dancing. But one of the things that I really was missing was dancing in Vegas shows is still the art, but not the full art of dance. And I was really missing that aspect of it through my career. I don't know exactly when this first happened, but there were some like pickup dance companies. So for those of us that were in shows that wanted that concert dance aspect of their life, there were a couple little companies that started. And so we would go and rehearse at 1 a.m. in the morning until 4 a.m. for our concert performances that would happen 2 or 3 times a year. So that was fun too. So that kind of allowed for my artistic outlet because that was really always what I wanted to do was concert dance. It wasn't available in Vegas as a full-time job. So I got to do my full-time job as a professional dancer and my concert dance also at the same time.
And I know you have a lot of crazy stories from this time. Do you have
Yes.
one or two that you would share with us?
Wow. I don't know if I was expecting that and what I'm willing to share. I did dance topless in Vegas, and in the shows that I performed in, those were the harder dance shows in town. So it was a dancer show where there were 5 to 6 females and 1 or 2 males, and then some variety in there. So they were really hard dance shows. Not like that's not that I'm scared of that or I'm shamed by that, but that's the fact of the matter. That's part of my career. But I was proud of those shows because they were really hard, and those are the shows that dancers from other shows would come to watch numerous times. One of my favorite stories that I'm not embarrassed by, our director, Ron Lewis, who passed away a couple of years ago, he was the choreographer and director for Liza Minnelli. When she would come into Vegas to perform, she would occasionally come and see our shows. And when we had our newest show that was at the Plaza Hotel, she came to that show and it was called Exposed. Tiger Martino was the choreographer, and it was a really, really kick ass dance show. And she came to that show and she started sitting in a booth. And then towards the end of the show, she sat in the aisle on the stairs. It just cheered us on. And then after the show, she invited our cast and guests to come to her show, where she sat us all in the front table. My mom got to come to this show with me as my date. Liza invited us all on stage to do her bow with her, and my mom got to come up. And then she invited us all to her suite to party with her. That was not only a wonderful time in my life, but it was the time of my mother's life for sure. And to get to see her partying with Liza Minnelli in her suite was one of the most fantastic things ever.
I love
And
that.
also to party with Liza Minnelli in her suite and take pictures with her. She would go and do costume changes during the evening and be like, all right, let's
Wow.
do some more photos.
Wow.
Yeah.
At what point did you decide to make the shift from dancing professionally to your next stage?
So I didn't really decide it. It was somewhat, I mean, I guess I did decide. So I was offered this job to teach here in Columbia, Missouri. I kept getting phone calls like, come on, you need to go do this. It'll be great money. It'll be this, it'll be that. And I was like, why am I going to leave Las Vegas and stop dancing and go to Columbia, Missouri, where I've never been, and teach? Like, I didn't even want to be a teacher. I did not care to teach ever, especially at that time. I was 29. finally I got this offer, and it was like things were a little slow in Vegas. There weren't really any shows that I really cared to be in. When you're 29, you got to kind of make those decisions and make sure they're worthwhile. So I was like, okay, I'm going to go there for 1 year and 1 year only and teach at Columbia Performing Arts Center. And then I'm here 24 years later.
When you first got there, did you think I'm going to be here, or were you still kind of like, I think this is just a quick gig?
In the beginning, I was like, oh my God, this is insane. What am I doing here? I did not think I was going to stay. And then as I started teaching, so I got here in August, so it was kind of the beginning of, rehearsals were happening and things like that. I also had never ever been a part of a competition dance studio. When I grew up, my mom always made sure that the studios I went to did not have recitals. It was not about that. It was about, you're going to learn how to dance. Yeah, I did pageants and things, but for that, I was learning my own solos and all of that. So that was just a separate thing. For me, coming to the studio and it's competition dance, and I was like, what in the world? I'm not into this. But my friend Jen Ballard, or Lucy Ballard now, she and I were like, oh no, we're not going to make this like competition dance. They're not going to be doing tricks. They're going to be learning to dance. They're going to learn the technique. They're going to learn the foundation, and we're going to create beautiful pieces for the competition dance. And that's what we did. And we had this group of 30 dancers, 10 of which were like the cream of the crop. And we went out and we did great at these. And so because of those kids, I fell in love with them. And then I fell in love with teaching, and I was like, oh wow, I'm not ready to go yet because they're getting it. And if I leave them now, it's going to be terrible for them and kind of for me. So my boss brought me in. It was in February. She liked to do things ahead of time. And so she offered me a 5-year contract. And I was like, oh my God, that's a really long time. Maybe it was a 3-year. Anyway, whatever it was. It was a lot, still a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, okay, 3 more years. I can do it. Now, honestly, in the back of my head, I always was thinking she has the means that maybe a professional company can come across here, because I had always had this dream to have my own professional contemporary ballet company. So these things are in my head. I see that this is a possibility. Anyway, so I signed this 3-year contract. And then I go to my friend's house that evening, and my 2 friends that I had in this town told me that they were pregnant. And I literally almost started crying because they were my 2 friends in this town. And I was like, now what am I going to do? Because, life changes. People change when they have babies. Life
Yeah.
changes for people, for sure. One of my friends said, don't worry, nothing's going to change on my part. That did not happen with my other one. But that night,
Mm-hmm.
I also met my husband. So that was an interesting little complete turnaround in one day that happened.
Yeah. When you met Mark, your husband, was there an immediate sense of this could be something?
I was never going to get married. That was just not in my future as far as I was concerned. I always said, well, if the one comes along, I'll know it. And then, that'll be what that is, I guess. And then I met Mareck Grundy, and our first date, actual date, was on Valentine's Day. I pretty much was like, oh no, this is the one that I said was never going to come around. A few months down the road, I had some freak out moments. And then I came to my composure and just went, okay, this is who it's going to be.
And kind of just realizing that your life is now taking a different path than you maybe thought it was going to.
Yeah, a completely different path. I never was a big, this is what's next. This is what's next.
Mm.
I'll say, just let the universe take me to where it was supposed to. And I trusted that. And my friends today, because we just celebrated our 20-year anniversary last week, and my friends who are no longer married still to this day are like, how is it you that you're married 20 years. I'm like, I don't know.
You knew what you were looking for.
Because I met my Mark Grundy just like you did.
Yeah, that's right. You are kind of settled now in Columbia and you're hoping to start a dance company. So, can you talk about how Missouri Contemporary Ballet first started?
Precursor to Missouri Contemporary Ballet, me and my friend Lucy, who convinced me to come here, we convinced our boss, Nancy Laurie, to start Cedar Lake Contemporary Ballet. Then I became the artistic director for Cedar Lake 2, which was based here in Columbia. Some family drama happened in Nancy's world, and she decided to close Cedar Lake 2. At the time, my rehearsal director and kind of co-person for Cedar Lake 2, Lisa Giger, after Nancy closed the company, she came to me. She had a nonprofit in good standing dance company that she could no longer run because she had 3 small children under the age of 3. And so she came to me and said, "Hey, I think that you should keep this going and I will hand this to you. All you have to do is do a name change to keep this a company going."
Does the mere thought of audition season make your palms start to sweat? Do you feel completely overwhelmed with getting everything together on top of your regular dancing schedule? I've been there, and I totally get it. As dancers, we spend hundreds of hours honing our technique and artistry. But when it comes to figuring out how to put together a resume or what to expect in a professional audition, we're often left to figure it out ourselves. That's why I put together the Ultimate Audition Guide. This is your one-stop shop for everything you need to tackle professional company auditions with ease. No more spending hours Googling and trying to piece together a somewhat coherent audition package. With this guide, you'll be ready to conquer audition season like a true professional. We're talking resumes, headshots, dance photos, dance reels, plus info on how to find auditions, what to wear, what to expect, how to budget, mindset tips, you name it, it is in this guide. You are ready for this moment. Head to the show notes, grab your copy of the Ultimate Audition Guide, and empower yourself with the knowledge to approach audition season like a true professional.
After our last tour for Cedar Lake 2, some of my dancers stayed on so that we could do a little mini performance at the Missouri Theater, which was in the process of going through the renovation. It was going to become Missouri Theater Center for the Arts. And then I was approached by David White to become the dance company of the Missouri Center Theater for the Arts. And then he said, "Now you have to find a name." And I was like, "What?" And all of this, like literally within a week. Also, within that
Wow.
time, when we had this little mini performance, this was kind of to invite people to be donors, to be a part of our board. So it was just this whole brand new starting point that I had zero idea what this meant and how to do this. I just kind of went out there because the universe was telling me, because everything literally was just like, okay, this is next, this is next, this is next. And it was really happening, I'll say effortlessly in an effortful way, because it was a
Mm.
lot of work to get it all together, but it was just almost easy because then people came in and we quickly, so quickly, formed then Missouri Contemporary Ballet in 2006.
And how were you funding that very first season? Did you have donors come on right away?
We had some donors. We had a grant writer. So we had gotten some grants that came in pretty quickly somehow. I mean, it's such a blur because it literally happened so fast. But we did have some people that came in, and because my thing was Columbia is this progressive arts community and they're only missing professional dance. And I
Mhm.
somehow convinced people here that that was the case. We got some people to bring us in some money, and we didn't have a studio space. Some of my dancers stayed on with me. So we were only 6 dancers in the beginning. We had to rehearse. We were kind of gypsy in different studios, some little studios here, out in Mexico, Missouri, Jefferson City. So we were just kind of little gypsy dance company.
And now you're going into your 19th season?
19th season.
What do you believe has led to the longevity of the company? It's hard for a smaller company, especially, to keep going for that long. What's your secret?
Luck? I don't know. I mean, we did our very first year, we did Dancing with the Stars. Like, we came together, some of us, and literally we put together Dancing with Missouri Stars in 3 months. That was something that allowed for us to move into the next season. I don't know. I just kept working really hard. We had some people that were really behind us to keep it going. I don't know how exactly to explain it, except that I just have
Yeah.
some really wonderful people behind me and with me. I can't even say behind me, but just with me, just trekking along. I remember the first year when we decided at the board meeting, which was at Upper Crust, which was right next to Murray's, we were like, let's just go to Murray's and see if we can find some celebrities to do Dancing with the Stars. And we went over there and recruited like 4 people.
I want to talk more about that, about Missouri Stars, because it's such a genius fundraiser. And I've very rarely seen a fundraiser of this magnitude for a ballet company. And so, for anyone listening who's maybe not familiar with this, Dancing with Missouri Stars is similar to Dancing with the Stars formatted, and it's the biggest fundraiser for Mareck Dance. 8 local celebrities, 8-ish, depending on the year, are paired with now the professional dancers. Rehearse 2 dances, compete them, and basically people vote with their money. And so that's how you're raising the money for the company. The genius behind it is that, one, it's a huge fundraiser that is basically helping the season and the longevity of the company continue going, but also that it gets the community so involved and brings in all these people who previously maybe had no interest in ballet or going to see a show. They're getting into it, their friends are getting into it. You're just bringing this whole community together for this purpose of uniting for your ballet company. And I just think that it's such a great model that I would love to see more people emulate.
It's crazy. And it's funny, this year we had from a plumber to a retired school principal to a veterinarian, a painter. I mean, just this huge eclectic group of people. They came together, and this, we only ended up having 7, which is not really a thing, but the 7 of them like really got involved in the organization and all of the things we do. Maybe the professional company aspect of it wasn't initially their first thing. Maybe it was, for instance, danceability that really got them involved and wanted them to do it. But they all learned about us. And then they came and saw our performances and they were like, oh my God, I have to be a part of this. And it made them push more. I mean, their fundraising this year as a whole group was spectacular. The plumber won. I mean, who thought the plumber would win, right? Every year I'm excited about it because, it's new people, new exposure, but I'm also nervous about it because you have no idea what the people are going to bring. And what they bring determines on what happens next season. It's super exciting. And after this past year, we've had so many people come to us and say they want to do it next year. And that's been a first in a long time. So it's great that people are really wanting to get involved and be a part of it.
Yeah, it's really cool. I am curious, when you are looking for dancers for the company, when you're holding auditions, what are the things that you are really looking for? What draws you to people for the company?
Obviously, I'm going to look at their technique, both males and females, but obviously more specifically females because they have to be really, really strong on point. They have to look as though those point shoes are an extension of their feet and they're not working to move their feet in the point shoes, if that sort of makes sense. I also really look for a diversity in movement and that ability to change from one thing to the next because our repertoire is so diverse in style and music and all of that. But I also look for, someone that has a personality that can laugh at themselves, that's going to take corrections well. The stuff that I give in auditions is not a natural thing, which is why I keep it. Can you take corrections and apply them and keep them for the next time I give you corrections? As you know, Caitlin, we are a pretty, what's the word? open group of people.
Mm.
I like to have communication with my dancers, both in the studio and out, and a collaboration. So when I'm setting a work, I oftentimes will say, here's what I'm thinking. If you have any thoughts on how we can portray this, go ahead and throw it out there and we'll see where that goes. So I definitely want dancers that aren't going to be mute and unable to give in their own way in the studio.
One thing that I've always admired about you is your ability to know what each of your individual dancers really needs from you in any given moment and work with everyone individually to be like, I know that Caitlin learns best this way, and so I need to work this way. And of course, like, we're professionals, we're going to sometimes you just have to buckle down and do it. But like in those times when there's more space for the creativity and for just playing around, you're very open to working with each individual person. And like for me, you might give me some movement and then you would say, okay, I'm gonna turn the music on, and you just do it with the music because that was a strength I had of being able to like find good musicality with it. And that was something you trusted me to do. And with other dancers, it'd be something totally different that they're like, what can you do with this? And I always thought that was a really cool thing to see because you don't always find that in a company.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think my dancers' individualities are important in being such a small company. When we're dancing together, I want that dancing to be together. And you're going to have to let go of those things that you think you want to add here because this is not the place for it. But I definitely enjoy pulling from dancers what their individual strengths can be. And maybe they don't know that this could be a strength, but that's what I is one of my favorite things about running the company and working with my dancers and finding their quirks. I remember times when I would give someone a correction and you would say, okay, so I need to do that. And I'm like, no, that's not a correction for you. That's a correction for this person. Finding those little things is something that I really enjoy doing. It doesn't necessarily make my job easier, but in a way it does because it's more efficient in ways, even though I have to speak with each person maybe a little bit differently.
As dancers in your company are there for longer, you start to build that self-trust because you're in an environment where you're given that opportunity. I remember first coming into the company and being very, very scared, not necessarily of you or of the company, but just of like being perfect, having to do things a certain way and having to let go of that. You had to push me a lot to do that. And then you get to a point where you have the self-trust to be able to do that. And it's just so freeing. And I just feel like you always are able to see the end goal, and like you can see in someone what they don't even see in themselves yet and know that like if you can push them to get to that place.
That's what I try to do. I have to make sure that as I get bogged down with things, that I don't lose that aspect of it, because sometimes stresses of all the other stuff that I have to do can get in the way. But it's nice now that I have people in the studio that I can trust as a rehearsal director and stuff like that. I can really allow for that a little bit more again.
Yeah. What are you most proud of?
I mean, I guess I have to be most proud of this longevity of this company and the fact that we're still here and survived COVID. Coming out of COVID wasn't the scariest part, to be honest. Like, the scariest part was the beginning of this season, because things have been very off in donations and funding and all of that for the arts. We had some monies coming in to help us from the government after COVID for us and for other people. And then those monies weren't coming in. Things just got a lot off kilter. We kind of came into this beginning of this season and into the fall. I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be really, really hard. If I was at a place where I was as nervous as I was when I first started the company, and I
Wow.
was really freaking out. But we we got some stuff together. And then, it was really dependent on, we were like, wow, if Dancing with the Stars is not a really good year, we could be in trouble. But it was a really good year, and we're not in trouble, and we're actually in a really good place. It's just that, I don't know, maybe bounce back ability that I somehow have, and the people behind or with me also have, to keep me going and to keep the company going. Now, my hope is that we have this new generation of people that are starting to attach to us that will maintain that. Anyway, yeah, it's it's been a little journey this year.
Yeah, I know coming out of this period, I know a lot of companies have struggled, and so I know right now it was a little bit of like, let's just get through this and kind of hunker down. But I'm curious, moving forward as you're coming out of this period, what's the long-term vision? Like, what would you love to see happen for Mareck Dance?
You know, the building we are in. My
Hmm.
vision, my hopes, and my dreams is that we take over this building and create more of a performing arts center with collaborators, for instance, from like the Missouri Symphony, and create a space that is a performance space plus a bigger rehearsal space and studios so that this feels more community. Even across the street where the Ameren building was, they're building a park, so we'll have this big park across
Wow.
the street. And as you know, as our former school director, the space is not the most immaculate studio space to walk into, and the neighborhood doesn't feel super great. But we're really excited because there's this park's going to be across the street. The parking's going to be better. So my big dream is eventually that we get to kind of take over this whole building and make it all ours and community so that people can come and utilize the space for performances and things like that in a little bit smaller venue.
Yeah, and I think that's such a core piece of Mareck Dance, and what you built is the community aspect of it. And that's what I always really felt dancing there was I didn't just feel part of the company, I felt part of the whole community in a way that I hadn't experienced before. And that's really special. And it's a small town, but like you said, it's so progressive in the art scene and just really a cool place to be a dancer. What you built is really special.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, before we wrap up, I would love to hear if you had one piece of advice that you would give to dancers who are pursuing a professional career, what would you tell them?
I would tell them to keep going to ballet, but also move in other ways, whether that be modern class, jazz class, contemporary. In all of those aspects, maintaining your sense of technique, but also being open to what your possibilities can actually be. And knowing you never stop as an artist. I still am not stopping. I still have a lot to learn and want to keep learning. This generation is a little bit stuck in what they think perfection is. There is no perfection. Dance should be able to do anything. Just really maintaining that open mind and allowing your body to do that too.
Love that. Thank you so much, Karen, for
Yeah.
all of this wisdom and for sharing some really cool stories that I didn't know, having known you for many years. I learned some new things today too. So that was really cool. Can you tell anyone listening how they can get in touch with the company or find out more about you?
So you can visit mareckdance.org, also mareckcenterfordance.org for the full organization. And that's where you can find me. You can always find me somewhere.
Okay. Perfect. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Karen. It was great to connect with you again, and I will see you in a few weeks.
Yay. See you soon, Caitlin. Thank you.
Thank you for tuning in to the Brainy Ballerina podcast. If you found this episode insightful, entertaining, or maybe a bit of both, I would so appreciate you taking a moment to leave a rating and hit subscribe. By subscribing, you'll never miss an episode, and you'll join our community of dancers passionate about building a smart and sustainable career in the dance industry. Plus, your ratings help others discover the show too. I'll be back with a new episode next week. In the meantime, be sure to follow along on Instagram at The Brainy Ballerina for your daily dose of dance career guidance.